Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table A Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. My name is Tim Burch, and today my very special guest is Emily Soloby. And sit back because I've got an introduction on her that it's amazing, and I just jokingly said I don't know when she finds time to sleep. So this is true. This is really true. Emily Soloby is the founder of Juno Jones, a new safety boot company making stylish steel-toed boots for women, and they're fantastic. You need to check this out. She's also the creator of the Hazard Girls community and the host of the weekly Hazard Girls podcast, who our own NSPS Vice President, Amanda Allred, was on recently, and they both knocked it out of the park. Emily holds a BA in Women's Studies from the University of Minnesota, as well as her Juris Doctor and Master's in Broadcasting from Temple University. She's a former attorney and co-owner of AAA School of Trucking, a transportation training firm based in Pennsylvania. Welcome to the podcast, Emily. And
thank you, Tim.
It's great to have you on here. We would like to say thank you for showcasing Amanda and what she's been able to kind of push her way into some of the things into surveying in a man's world, which you know also all too well, and you're doing your part to break into this. So what's your background and how the heck did you get into all of these things?
Well, first of all, Amanda was amazing to have on the show, on the Hazard Girls podcast. She is really just such a strong advocate for your industry and just spreading the word about surveying to just so many people, young women and all different types of people who might not have thought of getting into it. So it was really nice to have her on, so thank you. As for me, I started my career as a domestic violence victim advocate, actually. That was back in college, and that made me want to go to law school. So I got my law degree, and I went to work as an attorney for legal aid. And I was doing like domestic violence restraining orders and family law matters like divorce and child custody. And after doing it for a few years, I needed a change. I wanted to do something different. So I went back to graduate school, and I met my future husband there, and we ended up, this is where the story just takes a turn, we ended up taking over a family business in the trucking industry. And that's how I kind of got my feet into non-traditional fields. So I was working, at our transportation company and building that company up over the last 11 years now with my husband. And that's where I got the idea to start Juno Jones. And so, as you mentioned, I'm the founder of Juno Jones, which is the stylish safety boot company. And that's also where the idea for the Hazard Girls community and podcast came about as well.
Very cool. Very well. And let's start there and talking about women in a transportation setting, in transportation mode. You don't see a lot of women in over-the-road trucking situations, and not that they can't do it. It's one of those things, and I guess that's what you really wanted to see was women being able to go in non-traditional roles. Was that part of your drive?
I mean, it's so the trucking industry, all of these industries really, but the trucking and transportation industries have been hard for women to break into just because they've been so male dominated over the years, and there are safety issues and there's being away from your family. So there have been a lot of different issues that women have had to deal with over the years. And, for me, shoes were kind of my little part of how can I help? How can I make things different and better for women? So being a lifelong shoe lover, that's where my interests lie in a lot of ways. And I got this idea to create Juno Jones and to create safety boots that actually fit women's feet. And I went to my community in the trucking industry and in the transportation industry, and people's heads just like exploded. They were so excited. The other women I was talking to, they were just so excited about the idea. And I'm like, well, if people are this excited and I'm this excited about it, I have to make this happen.
Right.
So that's how the idea for Juno Jones came about.
Okay. So I have to ask, who's Juno Jones?
Well, Juno Jones, I guess, is a fictional character, but she represents, the strong woman who is willing to take on the world, and she's modern and she's adventurous.
That's good. That's part of what I'm glad to see, all of the things that you're into, and really providing that strong role model for not just young women, but all women, to be able to say, "Hey, I can do this," and this is part of what we should be able to be readily accepted in, to be able to do as well. And so, as far as shoe design, I mean, where is this something you went to school for? I mean, you went to classes. I mean, how did you get into shoe design? Actually, be able to design?
Because my background's law, right?
Yes, exactly.
Transportation. Well, I'm a lifelong boot lover. When I was in high school, I always had like my very favorite pair of boots. I'd wear them every day. I was never one of those people that had a million pairs of shoes. I just would have my favorite.
Right.
And, that was just over the years. I would have like my pair of Blundstones, and I'd wear them to death until they were dead. And then I'd have my Doc Martens, and I'd wear them. And I have so much love for these brands, and they meant so much to me. And I just felt very strongly about good quality footwear, and especially boots. And from a fashion perspective as well. So when I was in college, I did a semester in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and I had the opportunity to take a shoemaking class there as an elective. And I took it. I loved it. It was so much fun. I was really passionate about it, but I was on a different career path. So it just kind of like sat in the back of my mind. But I did have the shoemaking bug a little bit. So when I decided to create Juno Jones and form my team, the first thing I did was I went to the Brooklyn Shoe Space in New York, and I took shoemaking courses there.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to actually hand make shoes. I made sandals and sneakers and high heels. So I really have a good understanding of the structure and the parts of a shoe.
Well, and that's what's going to be my next question, is that it just seems to me that, unlike an athletic shoe and what, famously Nike did way back in the day, putting basically rubber in a waffle iron and doing that. I mean, a boot, a fine crafted shoe really has to be done by hand and designed and put together by hand. And that's basically the process you went through, is building these by hand.
Well, so the Juno Jones boots are manufactured in a 4th generation facility in Leon, Mexico. These are craftspeople that have been doing this for generations. They know their stuff. They have a love of boots. I've spent time with them and their families, and it's really a wonderful place. And we've been working so closely with them to develop the boot. You can't just like hand over, this is a design I want, can you please make this? That's
right.
Footwear is so complicated, and really you have to go through numerous prototypes and fit testing and back and forth in design. So that was a long process, and we're just getting to the end of it now, and our boots are coming off the manufacturing line this week.
Very good. That's and that's got to be such a wonderful feeling that you're going to see all this hard work come to fruition and be able to roll this out for a specific market. I mean, for somebody that you really, really are looking out for.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. When I was first starting and I was speaking to people, consultants in the industry, everyone, was like, no, there's no way you can do this. It's going to be too hard. It's going to take too long. This is going to take you years. And in my head, I was like, oh, it's not going to take me that long. But it really did. It really did take a few years. And it is challenging, but it is so satisfying to see something created that that people are going to love, and it's going to make people feel good.
Right. Because I can say, as a I'll say a career-long boot buyer. Yeah, it's much easier. Yes, from the serving standpoint, it's much easier for a man to go in literally any shoe store, boot store, specialty boots especially, and they're built for the male foot. And
Mhm.
so for you to take the time and put the effort in and to make them look as nice as they do, I applaud you for your efforts, and that's I, I can't wait to get these in some people's hands and just and see them grow, because it's such a great concept. Great concept.
Well, I've
Uh,
had so many people sending me pictures of the choices that they have to choose from for their boots. They'll send me pictures of like, this is the shelf, and it'll have like one pair, or
right.
just a few pairs. And sometimes they're men's boots that are just too, that are just shrunken down to try to fit a woman's foot. So.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's, like I said, I applaud you for doing that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the podcast. But let's jump over to Hazard Girls for a moment, and the podcast and the whole Hazard Girls community idea. Uh, Obviously, your initial experience with domestic violence and those issues has really brought you into some of that realm. I mean, how much plays into what you put together for Hazard Girls and going down that road with putting women in non-traditional
Mhm.
careers?
Yeah, I don't know that it relates directly to my work as a domestic violence victim advocate, but I think looking back just on my passions in life, it's always been to help women in some way. And so I think that's, at that early stage in my career, that's how I was doing it. And then I wanted more of the creative end of things. And I found a way, I think, to put my creativity and my love of high quality, beautiful, stylish footwear together to help women in this way. So I think that's really the connection there. But the Hazard Girls community is a community that grew out of Juno Jones. So, when I started Juno Jones, we put out our Instagram page and we were connecting with all different kinds of women in these different industries. And people were asking me, do you know any other women in science, or do you know any other women in engineering? And I knew so many. So I decided to create the Facebook page just to connect people.
Mm-hmm.
And it grew from there. And it's a wonderful group. It's just very supportive. And people come together to discuss the issues at their jobs and come to each other for advice. And then, of course, the podcast grew out of that, which the Hazard Girls podcast is a weekly program where I'm the host and I get to interview a different woman every week about her career. And as you know, I got to interview Amanda Allred, your Vice President of NSPS. But every week it's usually somebody from a different industry. So in that way, we get to spread the word about these different careers. And something exciting, I just found out today, we're in the top 3% for the career category on Apple Podcasts in America.
Very nice. Very nice. I guess that's one thing, if nothing else, that's one of the good things to come out of the pandemic, is that we have had some time to download and listen to a lot of these things. And there's a lot of good content out there, and people have a lot of good stories to tell. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I guess I'm pleased to hear that you're doing that. That's doing so well, because there is a lot of good stories that women in a lot of these careers need to have an outlet to tell. Mm-hmm. That's been we're starting to see as a main theme, especially in trying to promote surveying and other STEM things to the younger generations, is that, I mean, as a middle-aged white man, I walk into a classroom. That's stereotypical of me telling them what I'm doing. But how do I don't look like the young woman or the young minority. I can't relate. And so having these stories out there from people that the youngsters can relate to, that to me is very important. And I'm glad you're talking to these women in various professions that are able to share that story.
Yeah, I think it was Sally Ride who said, you can't be it if you can't see it. And it has to start somewhere, but I think having that role model, having those role models out there for young people to see really makes all the difference.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it's, I'm glad you had Amanda on. We've had a couple of other young female surveyors on this, a couple that really stand out to me just for our constant listeners. Anna Rios from Texas. I mean, wonderful young woman. Just go get her. She's putting together she put together the 2019 Women's Survey Summit, and she's trying to do it again. Stupid pandemic. Yeah. And then, so it's people like that we have to showcase. So I'm glad to hear that you're able to connect with these different professions as well.
Yeah, it's great to be able to amplify these amazing voices.
So as far as putting together Juno Jones and Hazard Girls, what's your goal? What do you want to achieve with both of these programs?
Well, with Juno Jones, our goal is to build a brand, a safety footwear brand that continues to grow with the changing needs of women as we break these barriers in hazardous fields and in non-traditional fields. So we want to expand our line. We have a few styles up our sleeves, and we'll be introducing those over the next few seasons. And with the Hazard Girls, we really want to just continue to have this community and to grow this community where people can come together. We hope to grow our podcast audience we hope to just be able to spread the word to more women about these great opportunities in the different fields that we're interviewing people about.
That's great. I guess if you had control over everything, where do you want to see Hazard Girls in a year, 2 years? What other thoughts do you have on building the brand?
Well, I mean, like I said, we just really want to continue to grow the audience, to grow the community. We have our podcast, which is amazing, and we've been given this great opportunity to partner with Jacket Media Company, which is a manufacturing podcast company that puts out several awesome podcasts in the manufacturing and business sector. And we're also partnered with C-Suite Radio. So we're just really focusing on, continuing to do that, creating amazing content, giving more women voices. And as for the brand, like I said, we're really focused on creating new styles of footwear. We want to give women more options in safety footwear. As I mentioned before, a lot of these big companies are just, I don't know if you've heard the term, it's shrink it and pink it. And what that means, it's sort of known in the footwear industry. And what it means is that companies, when they're making something for women, they just are making it smaller, and then maybe they slap some pink on it somewhere. And this is sort of across the board in many areas of the footwear industry. But in safety footwear, it is particularly egregious because safety footwear is all about safety. And if a boot is not fitting a woman's foot properly, well, she can be injured. And studies have shown that women are actually injured more in the workplace due to ill-fitting gear, including footwear. So, of course, we want to continue to solve these problems and give them more options.
Absolutely. And, because I having a wife and, not so, I'd say not so young daughter, early 20s, that, there was always this complaint of, they've only got available in boys' sizes, and it just doesn't fit the same way than women's clothes. And obviously women don't want to wear men's jeans. So why would they want to wear men's boots? So, no, that's fantastic. And I'm just wondering out loud that, is there an opportunity, do you think, to start talking to other clothing manufacturers, other safety manufacturers, whether it be anything for PPE, for hard hats, various things like that? Do we really need to start thinking about more of women-centric lines in some of these things? I mean, you've hit it on it in boots. Do we really need to press some of these industries into doing these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the big companies, what you're going to run into is they're interested. We all know what they're interested in. It's their bottom line. So, right. The numbers just aren't there yet. But the good news is that there are so many small, many women-led companies that are initiating these types of things. So there's a company called Safety for Her, and they are creating vests that are fitted to women. There's CoverGirls, and they're making basically mining suits for women. And then there's Dovetail, which is making jeans. So yeah, there are many new companies that have sprouted up over the past few years that are really focusing on these issues. And I think that we should give our support to the smaller companies because they're really the ones that are going to put the passion behind the product.
Oh, exactly. And I'll be honest with you, I think by people following your lead in seeing what you've been able to accomplish out of sheer determination and a lot of hard work that and that's one thing that we're starting to talk about more on a national level, is in not just getting women and minorities and the younger generation of people into surveying. It's just the younger people, period, because they're going into their coding and programming and doing all these things. Why can't they get into something like surveying and be just as successful doing that if they enjoy it? Start their own companies, do these things, chase their dreams. I think this is a good thing to do, and you're providing a heck of a role model out there to be able to do these things, because it's amazing. Like I said, just going back through your bio and seeing what you're doing has been fantastic. And what do you see as? Would you have a take on something even society-wise that we need to change and to try to be a little more accommodating to women and minorities and non-traditional roles for them?
I mean, how much time do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those questions, but I think if I was going to really hone it down to one point, it would really be that we need to be more welcoming to parents in the workplace. We have to allow that flexibility of work because, studies have found that women who are entering industries like construction and architecture and some of these non-traditional fields, they are entering in greater numbers, but they tend to leave somewhere around age 30.
Right.
And the reason for that, is obvious. It's because of family issues. I mean, there are children to be taken care of. There are schedules to be worked around. So as we progress through this pandemic and we see that it is possible to have flexible work hours and work from home and do all sorts of different things, it's my hope that a lot of workplaces will take those changes on permanently and that it will make things more welcoming to women.
Exactly. Well, that's something that we've talked about within our ranks. I mean, surveying was deemed early on as essential, and let's be honest that surveying the activities we do outside is very, very remote and, at times and can be socially distanced, whatever. But we've been able to stay with it and stay working. A lot of places have not been able to. And I'm hoping that's probably one silver lining out of the pandemic, is that you're exactly right, is we're learning some of the things coming from here, that we can be flexible, we can work from home and other places, and give people an opportunity, mothers and fathers, to be a little more work-life balance, because raising those families are important. And it shouldn't come down to, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, it shouldn't come down to motherhood or a career. And it just absolutely shouldn't. And we should be able to work these things out to where both can be achieved. There's no reason why it can't be.
Absolutely. And fathers too, as you mentioned.
Exactly. So
that's
that's one thing I'm hoping we come out of the pandemic with a little more apathy for wanting to people to have a work-life family balance, that we can do these things. And it's been very interesting. Like I said, and I know probably you and Amanda have talked about it. The average age of a surveyor in predominantly white male is over 60. And
Yes,
to get and granted, there's a lot of professions that are like that, a lot of occupations that are like that. So we have to.
The trucking industry is one of them.
Yeah, and yep, and one of the things we have to be willing to do, and the people that are still in the industries, we've got to accept that there's a lot more people that can do the work that we do, that it doesn't have to be stereotypically a white male that does this. And because I tell you what, it amazes me every day that I'm meeting more and more non-traditional people that are surveying, and they're fantastic. It's wonderful. And but then again, I meet people like yourself that are just doing this and doing this and doing this and going, wow, that's I'm serious. I still want to know how you find time to sleep. So it's very good.
Did I mention I have 2 kids?
Oh, I don't know how you do it. I don't. Your husband must be very patient.
He's really my equal partner and everything. That's how I do it. That's really your answer.
That's perfect.
We share all of the responsibilities right down the middle. So.
That is great. That's awesome. Well, one thing that NSPS wanted to do in helping promote your brand, both Hazard Girls and Juno Jones, is that we would like to partner with you on, especially with the rollout of your boot line, is that NSPS would like to give away a pair of boots. And we'd like
awesome.
And so for those that are listening, you need to email to info@nsps.us.com. I want you to, the phrase that pays, we'll say it like they say in the old radio show, that email to NSPS, the phrase Juno Jones rocks. And we're going to give away a pair of boots. And we'd also like to give away to a second place, give away a mug and a t-shirt. So for those that are listening, email into to Trish at our office, and we will set you up with Miss Emily and get that winner. If you want to get an idea, junojones.com, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And go check out these boots. They're fantastic. I can't wait till she's able to get them in stock, roll them out, because I think the women that they're designed for, I think they're going to just love them. I love the looks of them, and bottom line is they're designed for women, not for me, which is perfectly fine. So,
well, thank you so much, Tim. And I also wanted to mention that we have a special promo code for NSPS, and we really appreciate NSPS partnership. It's really exciting for us to be able to partner with your organization. The promo code is NSPS15, NSPS 15 for 15% off.
Very good. We'll note that as well. We're going to be partnering with Emily and some of these things. She's now a sustaining member of NSPS, and you'll see some of the advertisement going out for Hazard Girls and for Juno Jones. Listen to the podcast. Go check out the boots. One lucky winner is going to get a pair. And Emily, I can't thank you enough for doing this, for initially having Amanda on, and then doing this, and everything you're doing for promoting women in the workforce. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I love meeting Amanda. I love meeting you and Trish and the others at NSPS, and I look forward to getting more involved.
We do too. So until next time, this is Tim Burch for Surveyor Says. We got some great episodes coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks. You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.